I platinumed the game, Final Fantasy II, and here's how it went. In this game you play as Firion, also known as John Fantasy II. You and your allies begin your heroic quest by dying at the hands of the Palamecian Empire. Luckily, you are rescued by the forces of the Wild Rose Rebellion, who, like you, were fleeing from the Kingdom of Fynn after its capital was taken by the Empire. Ever since the current Emperor made a pact with Hell, the Empire has managed to conquer nearly the entire world. After recovering from his injuries, John is reunited with two of his allies, Guy and Maria. Unfortunately, his third ally, Maria's brother Leon, is still missing. Our party of three then goes to speak with the leader of the rebellion, the Princess of Fynn, Hilda, who has recently taken command of the rebellion in place of her father after he caught a nasty case of arrow in the spine. John and his crew are then informed that there are many prisoners being held by the Empire, among whom they may find Leon, and so our first objective is to sneak into the city of Fynn to look for clues. By the time we make it inside, we grab our first trophy, Apprentice Warrior, for defeating 100 enemies. We then meet Hilda's fiancé, Scott, the first Prince of Keshwan. He dies of his wounds, but not before giving us important information about how the Empire managed to conquer Fynn so quickly. The kingdom was sold out by a man named Count Borgen so that he could become a general for Palamecia. We then return to the rebels to tell them what we've learned, thereby proving our abilities. As a result, we are allowed to join the rebellion, earning ourselves the trophy, Password, Wild Rose. As fresh recruits, we are given our first mission, finding a source of mithril that can be used to forge better weapons for the rebellion. Specifically, we're being sent to find the guy they sent initially because they haven't heard from him in quite a while. Along for the ride is the white wizard Min Wu, who becomes our fourth party member. While heading north, I earned two trophies. The first is Experienced Warrior, which we get for defeating 300 enemies. Shortly after this, we encounter the elusive Sasquatch, earning us the trophy Field Research Basic. We then head to the town of Salamand and track down our guy, Joseph. He doesn't trust us yet though, so we have to prove ourselves by rescuing a bunch of locals who've been enslaved by the Empire to work as miners in a nearby cave. As we explore the cave, we get two more trophies. The first is Thrifty Spender, which we get for earning 10,000 gil, and the second is Legendary Warrior, which we get for defeating 500 enemies. We rescue the people trapped in the mine and then make our way down to the bottom, where we fight the first boss of the game, a Palamecian Sergeant. The fight goes well and we grab a chunk of mithril that he was guarding. We bring the mithril back to the rebellion and then we're sent on our next objective. We must prevent the construction of the Dreadnought, a gigantic airship that has the potential to threaten the few remaining regions that continue to resist the Empire. And so we make our way through the sewers of Bafsk, until we cross paths with a man known as the Dark Knight and the traitor Borgen, who inform us that the Dreadnought has already been completed. We fail to stop the Dreadnought from launching, earning us the trophy Empire's Blitz. After the Empire's attack, Minwu leaves our party so that he can stay behind and help the survivors. With our crew brought back down to 3, we set out to find a way to destroy the Dreadnought. In our search for information, we speak to the inventor of airships, Sid, who informs us that their engines are powered by a volatile substance known as Sunfire. If we find some more, we can cause a meltdown by throwing it into the engine. The source of Sunfire can be found within the Keshwan Keep. To carry it, we need a relic known as Egil's Torch, which is found hidden deeper within the castle. Unfortunately, the door to go further in is locked and can only be opened with an item known as the Goddess's Bell. To get this, we need to go all the way to the north, into a part of the world that's only accessible via sled. Lucky for us, our old buddy Joseph has just what we need, and so he joins our party, bringing his sled with him. While searching the cave that contains the bell, we grab the trophy Rookie Treasure Hunter for opening 10% of the chests in the game. We then find the Guardian of the Bell, the Adamantoise, who we take down easily. As we leave the cave, Borgen arrives on the orders of the Empire to find the bell, which causes us to have to fight him. Before his death, Borgen activates a trap that he laid, causing a boulder to roll down the staircase towards us. Joseph sacrifices himself to save us. We advance to Keshwan Keep, where we run into the second Prince of Keshwan, Gordon. Since he's also searching for Egil's Torch, he joins our party. Eventually we find where it's hidden, and it's guarded by an enemy known as a Red Soul. We make our way back down through the keep so that we can grab the Sunfire on the way out. As I did so, I got the trophy Smart Saver for earning 50,000 gil. Upon leaving the keep, we watch as the Dreadnought captures an airship in the sky. In the moment, this was very confusing, but a little later we learned that, apparently, Sid and Hilda were on their way to come get us. As a result of this, we now have to rescue them from the Dreadnought before we can blow it up. Once we find where the Dreadnought is parked and board it, we quickly rescue the two of them, and they go to prepare their airship so that all 6 of us can flee before we explode the Dreadnought. We make our way towards the engine room where we toss in the Sunfire. Before we can leave, the Dark Knight runs up and starts yelling at us. Despite the fact that this is the second time he's spoken to us, and this brief conversation is happening at a greater distance in a much louder room than our previous encounter, Maria starts to think that his voice sounds a little bit familiar. With the Dreadnought exploded and presumably thousands dead, we earn the trophy, Counterattack. In the aftermath of this victory against the Empire, the King of Finn succumbs to the wounds he suffered at the start of the game. On his deathbed, he promotes Gordon to become the leader of the rebel army. This removes him from our party. The king then orders Min Wu to seek out the spell Ultima. The last time the forces of hell threatened the world, Ultima was created to fight back against the demons. After the threat was neutralized, the mages who created the spell sealed it away to prevent its power from being misused. The king then orders our party to head over to the island kingdom of Deist so that we can investigate whether or not they were completely wiped out by the Empire prior to the events of the game. To get to Deist, we need to charter a ship, and so we find this totally not suspicious person offering the only ship to get there. They turn out to be pirates, but we very easily beat them into submission. Doing so convinces them to join forces with us, causing their leader, Layla, to join our party. This unlocks the trophy, a pirate's mate. We also have complete control of their boat. This newfound sense of freedom immediately went to my head, and I completely forgot where I was trying to go, and so I instead went to an area called the Tropical Island. While exploring its surprisingly intricate caverns, I ended up getting the trophy Moneybags for earning 100,000 gil. Those of you who've seen my previous video may have noticed that the Gil and Warrior trophies have been rebalanced between the remasters for Final Fantasy 1 and 2. In the first game, the trophies go from bronze to silver to gold, whereas now they go from bronze to silver. I feel that this is a good change, because while you do get the trophy sets a little too quickly, I feel that getting a silver trophy early doesn't feel that crazy, whereas getting a gold trophy early cheapens the impact that I feel like a gold trophy should have. Getting back on track, here's a clip of me getting absolutely destroyed by the area's boss, 4 bighorns. Taking that as a sign to leave, I ended up sailing around aimlessly until I eventually found Deist. Getting to Deist confirms that all the dragoons are dead. There is, however, one remaining wyvern who is actively dying as a result of the poison that was used to kill the rest of them. To communicate with the wyvern, we have to go into a nearby cavern to find a pendant on the remains of a dead dragoon. Instead of going to talk to the wyvern first, I instead explored the entire dungeon. At the end, we encounter 4 chimeras, who we then immediately kill, which then leads us to the life spring, which we don't have use for yet. I then left the cavern and spoke to the wyvern. They gave me the last wyvern egg and told me to bring it back down to the spring. After tossing the egg in the spring, we celebrate a job well done and go back to the rebellion empty-handed. Once there, we find out that the Hilda we rescued from the Dreadnought wasn't actually her, and so we kill the fake and learn that the Emperor is holding a tournament where the prize is the captive princess. Gordon is so worried about this that he replaces Layla in our party, and so our new crew heads over to the Colosseum. Since this whole thing is a trap, we are forced to fight a behemoth. We're rewarded for our efforts with a prison sentence. After being freed by a character who, up to this point, hasn't been important enough to mention, we search the prison to find Hilda, and after finding her, she leaves with Gordon. I then proceeded to spend the next hour wandering around grinding for stats. The only reason I bring this up is because I randomly went back to the Colosseum, and I managed to get the trophy Field Research Advance while I was there. By the time we get back to the rebels, Hilda and Gordon have organized an attempt at retaking Finn Castle, and so we join in on the force. Once inside, we join up with Layla and kill the castle's commander, Gotos. This allows Hilda to take the throne as Queen of Finn, earning us the trophy, Rebel Victory. Immediately after this, we're given our next objective, which is tracking down Min Wu and aiding him in finding Ultima. To obtain it, we're going to need a couple different items. The first 2 are a pair of masks. The white one we get from the dungeon beneath Castle Finn, and the black one we get after defeating the 4 bighorns that we accidentally found earlier. While exploring beneath the castle, I got the trophy Veteran Treasure Hunter for opening 50% of the chests in the game. Once we have both masks, we use them to stun and kill a magical doppelganger of the protagonist that was blocking the path to the lower floors of the Cave of Mysidia, at the end of which we find the Crystal Rod, which gives us access to the Mysidian Tower. When we sail up to the tower, we get eaten by an entity known as the Leviathan, who has been tasked with guarding the tower from those who seek the power of Ultima. In the process of this, Layla gets separated from the party. Inside the Leviathan, we meet a dragoon named Rickard Highwind. He also got trapped in here while pursuing Ultima. Due to our overlapping objectives, he joins our party, earning us the trophy Last Dragoon. To escape, we need to make it to a boat that is being guarded by an enemy known as the Roundworm. With a bit of effort, we take it down and make our way to the Mysidian Tower. In the process of ascending the tower, we take down 3 bosses: a Fire Gygus, an Ice Gygus, and a Thunder Gygus. Their difficulty wasn't exactly, consistent. We find Minwu at the top of the tower, and he sacrifices himself to break the seal on the door leading to Ultima. After leaving the tower, we discover that the Emperor has been using his magic to pilot a cyclone that he has used to destroy multiple towns, with his next target being the city of Fynn. Also, apparently Layla lives, so that's cool. To get inside the cyclone to confront the Emperor, we have to use the Dragoon's pendant on a mirror inside Fynn Castle to hatch the Wyvern's egg from earlier. Rickard forms a bond with the Wyvern, and it flies all 4 of us into the cyclone, earning us the trophy Birth of a Wyvern. We make our way through the dungeon that is inside the cyclone until we reach the Emperor. After fighting through his guards, we confront the man himself. The fight itself ended up being surprisingly easy, and so we watch the Emperor declare that he will not die, before immediately dying. With the war over, we celebrate with the rest of the rebels, only to have the celebration get cut short when we receive the intel that the Dark Knight has declared himself the new Emperor, and we also get confirmation that he's our missing ally, Leon. Discovering this earns us the trophy New Palamisia. Since we need an airship to fly us up to the otherwise inaccessible Palamisian capital, we go to talk to Cid. He agrees to let us borrow it, and then he immediately dies. And so we fly over to the capital to confront Leon. While Leon reads us his manifesto, he is interrupted by the Emperor, who has returned from hell to use the power he gained there to destroy the world. The Emperor then attempts to kill us, but we're saved by Rickard, who gives his life to allow us the chance to escape on his Wyvern. Given the gravity of the situation, we put our differences aside with Leon, and he officially rejoins the party, which earns us the trophy Allied Offensive. And to welcome him back into the fold, I gifted him Ultima, since he just seems so trustworthy. After grinding a little to bring Leon up to snuff with the rest of the party, we dive down into the Jade Passage, which then leads us straight to the Castle of Hell, Pandemonium. Immediately upon entering, we get the trophy Adventurous Wayfarer for visiting every location in the game at least once. Pandemonium is a bit strange as a dungeon because it has multiple encounters that I consider to be boss fights, but technically they're all optional and can be done in any order, so I'll just cover them quickly in the order I fought them. The first was Zombie Borgin, who I defeated pretty easily. The second was Tiamat, who ended up being a bit tougher, but not by much. After this I encountered Astaroth, who ended up being surprisingly difficult compared to the first 2. Then I encountered Beelzebub, who was dramatically easier than Astaroth. All 4 of these fights were encountered in chests, so I think you can understand what makes me reluctant to consider them bosses. Shortly after this, I ended up hitting the 1 out of 64 odds to encounter an enemy known as the Iron Giant. Okay, quick tangent. Final Fantasy II doesn't actually have a super boss, so I'd like to nominate the Iron Giant for the role. By the standards set by Warmech in the first game, the Iron Giant is more than qualified. It's the strongest enemy that can only be found as a random encounter, it manages to outdo most actual bosses in terms of difficulty, and it has a unique design that shows up nowhere else in the game. And now, we reach the end of the game, where we encounter the final boss, the Emperor. Alright, so let's pivot to instead talk about the things I did while preparing for my rematch with the Emperor. The first thing I did was finish up the trophy, Legendary Treasure Hunter. Talking about this trophy requires us to actually flash back a bit to some earlier points in the game where some wacky things happened. Multiple dungeons in this game are permanently inaccessible after you finish them, making their chests missable if you aren't careful. I actually did a pretty good job not missing any of them, with the closest call coming in the Leviathan. After beating the boss and leaving, I got a little paranoid when I noticed that the Leviathan was completely gone, so I reloaded a quick save to double check, and to my surprise, I had actually missed a chest at the very end of the dungeon. In hindsight, it was such an obvious chest that I can't believe I missed it. While that mistake was obvious, the next one came completely out of nowhere. So the town of Finn has 11 total chests, and for most of the game, I didn't know where to find the last 8. Since the town never disappears though, I assumed I was safe to wait till late in the game to look up where to find them. Apparently you can only get these chests while the cyclone is about to destroy the city. What you have to do is talk to this guy, Paul, who tells you about a secret door in his house that has all 8 chests behind it. To clarify what happened to me, I originally finished the cyclone without realizing my mistake, and I played all the way up to the start of the Jade Passage before looking up where to find the Finn chests, and only then did I realize that they were missable. Luckily, I'm the kind of person who makes a ton of extra saves, so I was able to reload to right before the cyclone. In total, this mistake only cost me about 4 hours worth of progress, but it easily could have required a full second playthrough if I wasn't careful. Flashing forward to the present, I grab the last chest I need, which earns me the trophy, Legendary Treasure Hunter. The next trophy I worked on was Field Research Professional. There are a total of 128 enemies in the bestiary, and I managed to get 126 of them by the time I reached the Emperor. The only 2 I had left were the Emperor himself and an elusive enemy known as the Goblin Prince. I ended up finding him pretty quickly, and so I wrapped up my level grinding and then went to fight the Emperor once again. Now that he isn't immediately killing our party, let's talk about what he can actually do. There are 2 main abilities that were notable to me. The first is that his basic physical attack has a drain effect, which heals him by an inconsistent percentage of the damage dealt. The second ability that I thought was worth mentioning is called Starfall X, which summons a meteor that hits the whole party. To be honest, it isn't very strong, but he's the only enemy that can do it, so I thought it was pretty cool. At the end of the day, the most striking thing about the Emperor is the massive difficulty spike between him and all the other enemies. Overall, I'd say I like the Emperor as a final boss. Like, his character didn't have very much depth, but the fight itself was pretty good. Defeating the Emperor fills the final slot in the bestiary, earning us the trophy, Field Research Professional. Then, after a final scene with everyone we've met across our journey, we get the trophy, War's End. To start us off, let's talk about the trophy Memory Lane. The way this trophy works is that throughout the game you learn various keywords that can be used to do things like advance the plot and acquire lore. There are a total of 15 keywords in the game, and I managed to get 14 of them before fighting the Emperor. And so I wandered over to Hilda and grabbed the final keyword, Jade Passage, which earned me the trophy Memory Lane. The next trophy I got was Sword of Myth, which requires you to earn the Excalibur. Now I think that there are actually 2 ways of earning it, so here's how I did it. The method I used requires you to head over to Deist after the Emperor has returned from Hell. If you talk to this person over here and you ask her about dragoons, then she'll give you the Excalibur, which earns us the trophy Sword of Myth. The second method for acquiring the Excalibur is to get it as a rare drop from the Iron Giant. From here we have 2 trophies left to go, Magic Tactics and Weapon Tactics. To talk about these, we'll need to quickly go over Final Fantasy II's very unique leveling system. So in this game, any character can equip any weapon and they can learn any spell, with their proficiency being measured by a skill level. In simple terms, you get skill experience from using that skill repeatedly in battle. Each skill can be leveled up once per battle, and so to get a skill to the highest level, 16, you need a minimum of 16 battles to do it. In practice though, it's probably going to take more than this. And so for these 2 trophies, you need to get 1 magic skill and 1 weapon skill, both to level 16. The main issue though is that getting past level 10 starts to become prohibitively slow if you do it normally. Luckily there are strategies you can use to grind it out faster. For magic, the best thing you can do is enter a fight with a couple low level enemies and then cast the spell on your own party. From here you can activate the auto battle to repeatedly cast the spell on yourself. The main caveat to this is that you need to cast the spell on the whole party, since if you only target one person, then the second cycle of the auto battle will automatically target an enemy instead. By doing this, I was able to get the spell Ultima to level 16, earning the trophy Magic Tactics. Leveling weapon skills requires a bit of a different strategy though, since weapons can only target one person at a time, and so the strategy here is to do the reverse of what we did with the magic. For weapons, you want to equip 2 of the weakest variants of a specific weapon that you want to level, and then you want to auto battle against enemies in the final dungeon. The ideal situation here has you both dealing and receiving so little damage, they were able to get enough hits in to make meaningful progress towards leveling up. By doing this, I was able to get John's sword skill to level 16, earning the trophy Weapon Tactics. And with that, we unlock Final Fantasy II's Platinum Trophy, Master of 2. In total, this Platinum Trophy contains 15 bronze trophies, 5 silver trophies, and 7 gold trophies. It ended up taking me around 34 hours to get the Platinum. And now let's discuss 100% completion. There are 3 main things that I focused on to get what I consider to be 100% completion for this game. First, I got every weapon skill to level 16 for every party member. Overall, this didn't take that long, particularly when you compare it to the magic skills. So every party member has 16 magic slots, and in total there are 40 spells in the game. So instead of getting 16 max level spells per character, I decided to instead prioritize getting at least 1 copy of each spell to level 16. The grind for this was immense. The final thing I grinded for was maxing out every single stat for the 4 main party members. Basically, every stat in this game operates on a similar system as the skills, but with more specific requirements for increasing them. For example, if you take damage in battle, there's a chance that your max HP will increase. Luckily, I managed to max out all of my stats while doing the grind for magic, so it didn't add any extra time. In total, everything I did for 100% completion added an extra 78 hours to my completion time, bringing my total to 112 hours. My overall verdict on this game is that the Platinum is okay. It's not too difficult and it's kind of enjoyable, but the grind to get the magic and weapon tactics is a bit too tedious for me to be able to confidently recommend going for the Platinum Trophy. Meanwhile, I absolutely do not recommend going for 100% completion. It's far too tedious and there are no meaningful rewards for doing so. Sub 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 die.